What up? I'm Josh Paulison, and by now you've seen the title of this video. So you can probably tell this is not my normal space. Actually, you can absolutely tell, assuming that you've seen my other videos. And so I want to talk a little bit about what happened for me, because I know that everybody's experience with burnout is different. And so, yeah, I burned out. What did that look like for me? There's a few different things that I really want to touch on because I want to make sure that things aren't misunderstood. Because the first thing is that I think that people would hear, hey, you burned out, and they would assume you worked too many hours or your boss was pushing you too hard. And I just bumped the table. So let me actually clarify something right there. I have not worked any overtime since December of last year. So let's start there. And that was when we were doing client work. In fact, I almost have felt like maybe I've been anal and nickel and diming my boss on hours, because I'd be like, well, I worked 10 minutes over this day, so I'm going to take that off later. So that's not been the issue. The issue has not been that people have been like trying to overload me with work. It hasn't even actually been my side content, because actually what I found is that that energizes me a ton, and that I love, like for me, streaming, talking 2 hours straight with an excuse of why I can keep talking is amazing. It's heaven. And doing these videos is actually really easy for me. Speaking is something that I love, and even like public speaking. I love getting up in front of a bunch of people. Other people would be like, crap, there's a ton of people. I'm like, oh my goodness, I make this many new friends. So what a lot of people would look at as, oh, it must have been overwork. Not quite. It wasn't that I was working too many hours, and it wasn't even necessarily that the tasks that I were working on were in and of themselves draining. So first I want to talk a little bit about what happened at work, and then I'm going to talk about what happened outside of work, because both of those parts were draining. And also, just if anybody's curious, actually my boss did an update video over on our Archmage Rises channel at work, and he's talked about this a bit. And so I think it'll be interesting for you to see like both, like it's not two sides. So I don't want it to come across as like, oh, see both of our sides, but just I guess see both of the different perspectives on it. So on my end, here's what's been happening: is that with work, I've been loving what I've been doing, but I also love volunteering for tasks at work. And so here's what had happened. I had become too important, which I already know I'm too important, but I'd become even more important. And what had happened is that I had become way too critical path, and we didn't realize it. And we realized that there are some tracking things that we needed to improve, and we've had recent conversations about that before I burned out, by the way. And let me just tell you the tasks that I was on. I was on the save system for the entire game. Now, this is not a simple save system. Save systems for games can vary in complexity, but we have literally like 50,000 plus items that need to be saved, connected together properly. We need debugging for that so we can figure out what went wrong, if things break, when things break, because they will, because this is such a critical system and touches so much of the game. We need to make sure that that it can also be multi-threaded so that it works efficiently. And I've built out the system, but as we have been working on other systems, which I'll get to, we've needed to expand and make sure that it's more flexible. Here's another thing that I was working on. And I knew, okay, so when I took on the save system, I knew this would be a task for the duration of the project and beyond, because we will always have things that come up. Not due to, hey, we haven't even done our due diligence. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about somebody will have some weird multi-threading issue where something breaks on their system that we didn't account for. We're going to do our best to cover all of those things, but it's just, there's enough going on that it's inevitable that we need good debugging. We need to be able to figure out what's going on, and we were extending it. Here's another thing I was on. I was on design data. What does that mean? Well, our terminology at work is that we have our design data, which is data that we need to be able to extract from the game and pass over to designers. So when you create an item, say, in the game, like maybe it's acid, you need to be able to load in the cost. You need to be able to load in the value. Those are kind of the same thing. You need to be able to load in like different information about the ability, descriptions, the item name, perhaps where it can be used. A lot of different data is there, and we need to be able to load that all into the game and create new items. But it's not just used for items; it's used for all the enemies in the game. I actually talked about this in an Archmage Rises update video. It handles all the abilities. It handles quests. It handles all sorts of data. And so I was working on that. Then it wasn't just working on that data, it was also working on the data tooling. It was working on tooling so that we could have spreadsheets of all this data and have it all working, and have it so that you could export it from there, have it all show up in the game right away, and have it be reliable. Then I also was working on our quest tooling. This is tooling that allows you to create different blocks to build a quest inside of an editor. And so I was taking some different ideas that I'd had from web development, practices that made sense there, and applying them to Windows Forms. And after talking with my boss more about it later, I realized I don't have past Windows Forms experience. I was taking lessons and applying them in the wrong area. And so that was slowing me down, and unfortunately it's something that we didn't catch soon enough. And so I was working a lot with this kind of web development mindset of creating all these different instances, all these different buttons, and hooking up a lot of the data manually. And also I wasn't quite sure what the target was at the time, and so I ended up creating something really flexible so that we could adjust it later and try to fit whatever we wanted. And as we got more of the vision, it was like, okay, yeah, that so we needed to clarify a few things earlier on. And so what else was I on? Because that's not it. I was also on update videos for Archmage Rises. And so why would that be a big deal? I love doing these updates. What's the difference? There is actually a huge difference. And the huge difference is that we are all working really hard on systems of the game that aren't very exciting to a lot of players. Nothing that I've just mentioned is probably something that you would hear as a player and be like, oh my goodness, they're working on the save system? Oh my goodness, they're working on data that designers can edit? Oh my goodness, they're working on tooling so that designers can edit data that we get? And so we were working on all of these extremely critical systems. And when I say we, I know I've just been talking about my own systems, but a lot of us have been working on systems that are critical to the functionality of the game and that need to be smooth and working great, but that don't make for exciting update videos. And so actually creating update videos has been really stressful and hard for me because not update videos here, these are easy, but update videos for Archmage Rises, because we were working on all these other systems and I was trying to figure out what can I talk about that's interesting for the players. I don't want to just give cruft. I don't want to just be like, I guess I'm going to talk about something. I want it to be actually valuable for people. And so let's see, what else? I was also handling community management. Now, what else was I handling? Was there anything else? That might have been it. It might have just been those things. So here's the thing. Any one of those is a full-time job. And so what ended up happening, it wasn't that other people were giving me all these tasks and saying, Josh, you need to do this and this and this. There was a little bit of that, but also I was volunteering for things. I was like, that sounds great, I'm going to do that. That sounds great, I'm going to do that. And unfortunately, the way that we were handling tasks, we weren't breaking them out enough inside of our tracking software. And we realized this, and we've had conversations about this since. And so as a result, we would look at my list. I don't have that many tasks. Maybe I have 2 tasks, 3 tasks. Okay, so this task, I need to update it in order to add more functionality, but you know what? We're not tracking that right now. Oh, and somebody else has 2 tasks. But even though it might have looked like we had the same number of tasks if you were just looking at block items, they were not the same weight of tasks. And we had some things for tracking weights, but it can still be hard to know how things are going versus how they need to go. And one of the things that's really important, I guess, with all the systems that I didn't really mention, so it wasn't just that I was on all of those at once, it's that all of those need constant updating throughout the cycle of the project. Save system, there are new things that are going to come up, new things that are added that we need to test with the save system, make sure it's working. Oh wait, we haven't supported this type before, the save system needs to support this. Okay, and then with design data, oh, we need to add this thing to the design data. Okay, what about the tooling? Well, you know what, this is slowing down the people using the tooling, and so we need to change the tooling for this. Oh, the quest tooling, well, we need to add more features. And so these are things, these are all perpetual projects. And I'm used to personally having a lot of perpetual projects, but keeping that going at work, frankly, I was missing deadlines. I was missing our targets internally, and I kept being pulled in all of these different directions, and I couldn't maintain it. And I hate saying that because I don't want to say that. Because I want to say I had it all together and I had all of the pieces lined up perfectly. I wish I could tell you that. When I ended up writing on the whiteboard one day at work very recently, before I burned out, hey, here are the tasks that I've got going. And my boss and coworker who are in the office, Thomas and Michael, they were just sitting there and it was like, yeah, that's a problem. Like when we put it out there, it was obvious to everyone that this was a problem. Nobody was like, Josh, you should just suck it up. Nobody on the team was saying that. It was just, yeah, this got away from us. We need to fix this. And so we ended up taking the save system and the design data integration and tooling, and we passed those off to other people. I was still over some other pieces because, of course, I'm still going to be working on things. But we passed those off. And those in and of themselves are heavy tasks. And passing those along, I've been really happy and proud of my teammates because they have been taking them on like champs, and they felt like they've been going slow. But I'm looking, I'm like, these are complex systems. You're doing amazing. And it sounds like it's been fairly easy for them to start to grok some of the pieces. It's taken a little bit of time, and I've been helping them along. But I've been really like, you guys are rocking it. And so and so it seems like everything was moving in the direction for these things to be resolved. It sort of looked like, okay, well, we brought these things up and that was good. That's what was going on at work. Let me talk a little bit about what was going on outside of work. Now, you might think that I'm going to be talking about update videos, YouTube, Twitch, games for love. Actually, I'm not going to be talking about any of that. I'm going to be talking about social life. So one of the things, when most people think of burnout, they think solely of you worked too much. Here's something that's been really important for me. I moved up from Michigan last year. I'm an extrovert, but I tell people that I'm bad at being an extrovert, which is pretty true. What do I mean by that? Well, even though I love meeting new people and being around people, I can be very bad at initiating hangouts and setting those up. And so what does that look like? Well, it can look like me wishing that I was with people and not being with people, even when people are available to me, even when there are people who would love to hang out with me, who have expressed interest in connecting, and I just don't do it. And why don't I do it? That's a good question. um, and so why don't I do it? In some cases, honestly, it's because I didn't set up a schedule for it. And actually, so I can see a set of steps that led me to where I am now. I'm not looking at this and going, oh my goodness, how do I get here? It's kind of obvious to me, honestly. I'm like, oh yeah, there was this, and then 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 this. So one of the things that happened was that I was living my life based on how my boss and coworker comfortably live theirs. They are both introverts, and I would say fairly heavy introverts on that side. Also, they are just different as far as personality goes. They are a very programmer personality, which is great, fantastic. And I'm also a programmer. But I also have a theater background, a musical background. And, I would consider them both. They both have different artistic focuses. And so I'm not saying that they're not artistic people, but there is like a theater personality, I guess you could say, or a musician personality that I relate with very closely. That moving up from Michigan away from all the people that I was connected with, not really knowing where to go. And I came during COVID shutdown stuff. So I kind of kept living as if everything was shut down. I wasn't sure where to find high energy people that I thrive with. And even when there were some opportunities, I was living my life in certain ways that were not bringing me to that place. So as an example, I've had the option to get my car up and running at any point, but I was like, if I don't pay insurance, I can do other things. I can save up money, etc. And so I focused instead. I let my car just kind of sit, and it's been just sitting there, and it's been fine. But it's something where I was just kind of like not setting myself up for success socially, and I realized so I was not setting myself up for success socially. And I think that I actually had that over here. Let me take this. And okay, I was not setting myself up for success socially. I think these are in the right order now. And then over here, I was doing way too many things at work, and we were lightening those. But I was still doing. But I was coming off of that. And okay, so we've got these two things. And so, what happened? When was I actually like, oh, I burnt out? Honestly, I was worried for about a month that I might be on the edge of burnout, but I always thought I was on the right side of it. So I was like, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm good. And then I got sick. And not sick in a normal way. It was sick in that I was just dizzy. It was sick in that I was just staring off into space for 30 minutes and playing through the same problem in my head. It started last week on Monday. And so last week on Monday, I ended up contacting work, and I was like, hey, I'm sick. I don't know what's going on. I can't think. I almost feel like I might just fall over. And what I found a lot that day, I was like, I should just be able to work, but I was just out. And it was like signs of depression sort of thing, like sleeping in, just wanting to sleep all day, and then not feeling any better. And again, I found that throughout the day, I would find myself sort of getting stuck, just like staring off into space for 30 minutes and just playing through a work problem in my head. I would dream about work problems. I would wake up thinking about work problems, and work problems like job at my job problems. Um, like not feeling like I was hitting the targets that I wanted. I know different people handle deadlines differently, and it's not even deadlines necessarily. So I keep saying deadlines, but it was estimated timelines. So it was, we estimate this task will take this long, but if it doesn't take this long, then there's understanding, and we built flexibility in for that. But and we've had to shift some different things with me burning out, but the idea wasn't. And my boss even brought this up during a meeting. He was like, "Have I ever gotten mad at anybody for not hitting an original target?" And everybody was like, "No, no, it's we've just had conversations and that's gone well." But if I feel like I'm not hitting my own targets, I just like I die inside. And so that was something that was piling on me a lot. And so I was just playing through things over and over in my head. That happened Monday. Come Tuesday, I'm in the same state, maybe a bit worse. Come Wednesday, I'm in the same state, and I'm like, what is going on? It doesn't seem like I'm sick. It seems like I'm fine. I don't have a fever, but I can't do anything. That's what it seems like. Like it seemed like the only way that I could stop my mind from playing through work tasks was to watch TV. And so I would do that, and then I would stare off into space for another 30 minutes, thinking through a work problem and not resolving anything really. And my boss came in on Wednesday, and he sat down with me and he talked. He was worried about me, and I'd messaged him earlier that day, and I was like, I hate saying this because it feels like an excuse. It feels like the type of thing that I could say is an excuse. I think it might be burnout, because I was looking at it and I was like, this. I was looking up some of the symptoms of burnout and stuff like that, and I was like, this does seem like it would make sense. And my boss Thomas was also like, that does make sense. That lines up. Last year, worth mentioning. So I pushed up to when I had to take my vacation days, and then I just took them all at once. I didn't actually like remember about my vacation days until it was like, oh crap, I have to take my vacation days to finish out the year. So I've been in Canada for the last year and a half as an extrovert, not really focusing on connecting with people and not finding people who I guess I hate phrasing it this way, but match the high energy that I thrive on. The artistic high energy that I'm like, I need this in my life or else I die inside. Um, and so I was talking with my boss Thomas about this, and we talked through some things. We had really good talks, and and he mentioned that there were some friends that I could contact that I'd been talking with a little bit, and we talked about starting a hangout group. And he was like, you could just call them up for tea or something like that. And I was like, that's a good idea. And so I'm going to get to where I'm actually at pretty soon here. So I ended up talking with my boss. I ended up before I talked with him, I'd contacted my counselor. I contacted a pastor. I was talking with some different people and jumping between calls and being like, oh crap! like I've got a lot of people who have been really willing to talk with me and help me out. And thank you so much. I love you all. Really, it's super meaningful to me. I end up so after those conversations, or it was all intermingled a bit. I'm talking with my brother and sister-in-law, love you too, and end up contacting these friends and bring them over for tea. Oh, I need to jump back to a little bit of what I talked about with my boss. My boss was like, I've talked about how I love working at Defiance Game Studio, and in case anybody's wondering, that hasn't changed. And my workplace is so awesome. So my boss told me to take the time that I need to not worry about it, to not try rushing back in. And all of my boss and all of my coworkers took a day off last Friday, not yesterday, but last week on Friday, in a show of solidarity for me. It was the way I think they phrased it, of just kind of like, hey, we know you're fighting with this, you're fighting this, we're going to stand with you. And so they all did that for me, and basically gave me time and are figuring things out on their end and moving forward. And I am going back, so if anybody's like, "Oh no, you're not going back," that's not what that means at all. It's that they gave me space, and I've never. You don't hear about that at game studios. Like seriously, if you don't think that that's amazing, then you have no clue what goes on in game studios. So, yeah, that's amazing. And so yeah, I ended up contacting these friends for tea, and they talked about bringing me over to their Airbnb and us spending a few nights hanging out together. And that's where I'm at right now. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was burnt out. Wednesday, so just after talking with my boss, even him coming over, I felt like I was filled a bit, and I was like, okay, this seems like this is social burnout is my own phrase. I'm not a medical or whatever professional. I'm not the professional I need to be to talk about that, but I can talk about my own story, and so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm an expert on my own story. At least I like to think so. So, so I was burnt out from really not connecting with people. And there was a lot going on at work that, like, I'm not pretending that that wasn't a factor, but also I wasn't having the connections that I needed with people. And so this past, since Wednesday, I've been with them, and honestly, I've done a lot of things that I've like thought recently about that I just really wanted to do. Um, like I went to a with them. There's a local talent show event, and honestly, I've wanted to go to one of those in a long time. There were some of those in Michigan that I knew about, but haven't been able to go to like I guess an artsy event in a while, or haven't known to, haven't done it. And and also I ended up taking like being part of a prayer night, which has been a long time since I've been a part of one of those, and that was amazing. And then also we had a bonfire, and I got a bunch of stuff for just stupid s'mores, like not just your basic chocolate s'mores, but Kit Kat s'mores, Oreo s'mores, chili pepper chocolate s'mores, like a silly idea that I've had for a long time, where we would have a few people all go to the thrift store together and buy each other a goofy shirt that they have to wear for the rest of the day. It's just been really fun, and it sounds like so the couple that I've been staying with, it sounds like for them, and I'm not saying their names because I don't know, I don't want to dox them. They probably don't care because actually they have an Airbnb here. If somebody wants to stay in this Airbnb, support these lovely people. Um, they it sounds like on their end that they're like they've said that they've laughed like 75% more since I came, and it's been really good for them. It's been really good for me. It's been really cool. Like one of them is an American, and so it's helped me a lot honestly with processing more of American and Canadian culture, because I realize that there are a lot of things that I've just taken for granted where the culture is very different. There's actually something that I've learned in talking with the person more about that I'm calling it the American Circle, which is a style of comedy in at least in Michigan, around where I grew up, that Canadians don't get what the heck is going on. Where one person will make a joke that's kind of bad, and all the other Americans will laugh. And then one of the Americans will make a joke that's a bit worse, and then all the other Americans will go, "Oh, that's terrible!" And then there's a pause. And then another American makes a joke that's even worse, and then everybody laughs and is like, "Oh, that's terrible!" And talk about how bad that is, and I can't believe you said that. And then there's a pause. And then another American jumps in with an even worse joke, and then everybody laughs and talks about how terrible that is. And it goes on, and at some point it stops. But it's this escalation that's just like like there's just different cultural things, I guess, in general, where it's like I realize that I just sort of assumed. I guess it's just been kind of awkward for me in that way. Honestly, I've just been like, I don't know how to connect in these areas because this always. I guess the best way I can think of phrasing it is this always worked because I was in Michigan, I was in the U.S. or around Detroit, and again, I'm not sure if it's U.S. specific or if it's Michigan. If you're like, hey, this is true in my region, then let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to. That would be really cool to hear about actually. Uh, but they're just different cultural things that I realized that I was kind of just taking for granted as being the same, and I've thought about it a little bit and been like, I think that there's more that I'm missing, but that's been really helpful. And honestly, it's just been amazing. We've all really enjoyed our time together. It's been really encouraging and uplifting, and I feel like I'm actually like filled on my social tank. Now, I've talked about a bunch of things that went wrong. Where am I now? What's going on? And actually, I'll be returning tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, to my living area on that little island, and then going back to work on Monday because I got to go back at some point. And so I've talked about all of that, and so I think that the practical question is, how do I avoid this happening again? So there are a few things that I saw that happen. One of them is that I kept waiting for the perfect friend group. In retrospect, here's what I could do and what I want to start making a practice of doing. I hang out with who's there. And if I'm like, hey, but this other group's available now, I let this group know. And I move into this group. Rather than waiting for a group, because there were some online groups that I've connected with in the past where I was like, no, but there's in-person like hangout groups that I want to be a part of. And then there was another in-person hangout group that was specifically for artists, and I was like, well, I want to be a part of that, so maybe I'll wait. And I was just delaying socializing. That was a big mistake, and I see that now. I needed to start connecting with people and change my schedule if I need to. Another problem that I see is that I lived according to how it worked for introverts in the area. I'm an extrovert. I need people. Like, I've been with these people for the past week, and I've met so many more new people, and I love it. And I'm like, yeah, I want to meet even more new people in the area. I want to connect with even more new people. That's amazing. I want that. And so that's one of the things, is not model my life after what works for introverts, or not model my life after people who have different needs than I do. That's really a better way of phrasing it. Not model my experiences or things like that. And also try to figure out a work schedule where I am not sabotaging my social time. So one thing that I'm figuring out, I'm probably going to be changing my streaming schedule and maybe my upload schedule as well. And actually, I'm talking with somebody about this soon, as long as you're still cool working with me after this. Wow, that sounded really manipulative. Holy cow, I was trying to say that as a joke, but that just sounded atrocious. How do we even get out of that? Do what's best for you. Wow, I'm so sorry. That's kind of funny, but that's also terrible. See, that's the type of thing that in an American circle people would start continuing and carrying on. And anyway, so the thing is that I realized that I need to delegate more. Okay, a few different things. I realized I need to figure out the schedule better. I realized I need to not live like people with different needs, how it works for them. I realized that I need to be more open to reaching out to people. I need to take opportunities, and then if I think there's a better opportunity coming, don't wait for the better opportunity. Take what's there and then switch over if I need to. I've realized also that as far as like some of that goes, I need to be willing to make an investment into social stuff. Like, there's a part of me where I've been like, oh, the gas costs have sucked, and I think I've overestimated them. But also I've been like, oh, I've been spending all that money, but I need that socially. I need to be willing to budget, even if it ends up being several $100s a month in order to deal with insurance and all of that. I need that. And so that's going to cut into other things, sure, into other opportunities, but I need that. And another really big thing, I feel like there was another really big thing, which is why I said another really big thing, but I've presently forgotten it, but I will certainly remember it further on than what was the past present, which is now the past. Okay. So another big thing at work, we need to make sure that if I volunteer for things, that we go and we look and we say, does this actually make sense? Or is Josh just volunteering for everything in the world again? Because then we need to tell Josh, no! You don't do it! Josh, stop! Don't touch that, Josh. Josh, no, Josh, I know you want the save system. I know you want every system in the game. But you need, Josh. And then they'll stroke my head. They won't stroke my head. They don't do that. They're not touchy people. I'm a touchy person, so I'll stroke my own head. And yeah, so that better tracking, like there's things that we're doing at work, and work has been so amazingly supportive, and I appreciate that. And they've given me space. Like it's when I say they've been amazingly supportive, I don't mean they've been pinging me every day, being like, when are you coming back? No, they've given me space, and that's been really sweet, and I appreciate that. Another big thing is I'm figuring out delegating. So I realize that there are a lot of different tasks that I don't need to do that I do. And so actually, like, I am looking for help with some different tasks, and I'm looking to pay for them. I'm not just saying like, work for me for free, but I want to pay for some help. And so I've started paying somebody to help with a lot of marketing things. I've gotten some comments on my videos, and I thank you so much about like, why isn't your content bigger? Why hasn't it continued? And I take those as high compliments. Thank you. And I also realize that the reason why it hasn't is because I haven't done a good job of marketing it. And so I take the compliment. Don't get me wrong. I realize it's not a backhanded compliment. There's no ill will there at all. I also realize that, well, the reason why I'm not bigger is because I haven't done well in the marketing. And I need help for that because I've seen that be something that I can hit certain points with. But where I tend to seem to do well is with process. Marketing, I tend to struggle a lot with. If it's, hey, how do we do this more efficiently? I can help with that. If it's how do we automate that, I can help with that. If it's and that's something that I really try to do a lot with the videos so that they can be maintainable. I've talked about that in past videos of like, here's why I do side projects, and I try to make sure that things are maintainable. But I need to delegate more, and I've known that for a bit. I just had a hard time figuring out where the heck to do that with. So like I'm looking for somebody to help actually with programming a lot of my tools, which you don't see in this video at all, but I would love that. If you have web dev experience, feel free to send a resume to my email, joshuapaulison@gmail.com. You can go to joshpaulison.com to learn more about to learn more about me, but really to find my email address is what I was getting at. You can learn a lot more about me by watching these videos and maybe checking out some of my old Twitch VODs. Also like video editors, I'm interested in talking to people on video editing. If you do YouTube thumbnails, I'd be interested in talking with you. There are a few different things, and there are some things that I might not need, and so I'm kind of just reaching out because I'm trying to see what's available, what things people could help with. But I'm really looking for help with content, with brainstorming, and there are some people that I already have in mind for some of these things, or some people who might already be set for it. But one of the things is that for the people who I have in mind, I don't know their availability on things, and also I don't know in some cases if it would be better for them to focus on other tasks and maybe then they do pieces and delegate out some of it. I'm trying to figure all of that out, but those are some of the things that I'm interested in talking. If you do video editing, if you do YouTube thumbnails, if you do web programming or game programming, I'd be interested in talking with you. And I'd also be interested, like if you're like, hey, if you tutor me, I'll do some of this stuff and we do some sort of service exchange. I'm also good with that because tutoring is easy for me and I love doing that, and I would be happy to give you a good deal on that. But I'm happy to pay. So that's where things are at. Maybe that's a lot. Maybe it's like, what the heck? But my hope is really that it helps other people. And this might sound very odd to say, but honestly, I don't think I could have burnt out at a better time. because the timing worked great for the friends that I'm staying with. As far as stuff at work goes, maybe the timing wasn't great, but also I had gotten things in a place where I had delegated out a lot of pieces and started to hand those out, and so that was really helpful. And so it seems like any time to burn out now was a really good time. I am also looking to go and visit a bunch of family in Michigan next month and see a bunch of people there for American Thanksgiving, and so I'm looking really forward to that. And gonna see how many people I can hit up and get pictures with that I'll hang around in my basement apartment. This isn't my basement apartment. By the way, they have this pillow here which they put out, which I thought was really sweet. Nintendo's great, even though that's technically not an. I don't think there's any Nintendo controller that looked like that. I mean, it's kind of a bastardization of the SNES and NES controller, but I still find it acceptable. Anyway. That's what I got for today. If you have any questions, or if there's even a certain part of my experience that you would like more information on, feel free to ask in the comments. And I want to say that I think, so this is, I guess, kind of my guess and my experience, is that I think that burnout would look different for different people. I know that other burnout experiences that I've heard of, it's like somebody just needs to sit alone playing video games for a month and they're good. For me, it's socializing. I need to see people. I have the opposite thing, where it's not I have too many people around me. It's I need to get out and see people and have some fun experiences. And so that's been it for me. And I think we're going to be having like beef stroganoff soon, which I'm really excited about. So thank you to everybody watching. I want to help you in your journey, and so I hope that even though this is maybe a bit uncomfortable to talk about on my end, that it helps you out, because if me making mistakes, even if they look obvious now, can help anybody else out in their career, in their game dev journey, then I like that. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day, and take care. Now I have to find the stop recording button, which is right here, so I already found it. I'm a genius.